This is the exact process that you can use to go from being trapped in a 9 to 5 to complete remote freedom, operating wherever, whenever, as a high ticket closer. That's what we're covering today, literally step by step. So I recently started this channel. I've been closing for 18 months now, and previously I was in a 9 to 5 corporate sales role, feeling unfulfilled, trapped, and most importantly, no control over my time and schedule. Traveling across the country, working 12-hour days away from my family, my friends. I had no social life. I was making that dream 6 figures a year, and I was still somehow miserable. I just really want to break down the vehicle that allowed me to really live the life that I always wanted. Before high ticket closing, I tried everything. Trading, drop shipping, Amazon FBA, property investment, investing tens of thousands, all great business models, but none worked for me until I found high ticket closing. Now I work a few hours a day, making thousands every single month, having full control of my time, my schedule, and being able to operate from wherever in the world. The biggest mindset shift for me last year, it was a random Thursday. I decided I'm going to Marbella tomorrow. Within 24 hours, I was there, took calls for around 3 hours across the whole weekend, made over £1,000 and spent the rest of the time playing paddle, going to the best VIP tables and restaurants out there. And for me, that was my definition of living the dream. So yeah, high ticket closing is the best thing that I've ever done. And I wish that I'd done it a lot sooner. And I really just want to break down step by step on how you can go from being trapped in a 9 to 5, knowing nothing about high ticket sales, to complete remote and financial freedom. So yeah, I'm going to be going over this now on my Miro board. So let's just jump straight into it. So what I'm going to break down for you right now is, first of all, understanding the opportunity of what high ticket sales actually is, how you do it, how you find roles, your expected earnings that you can make, the timeline to all of that. So I'll just jump into it straight away. So first of all, actually understanding the opportunity within high ticket sales. So currently it's typically doing about $343 billion annually, and it's projected by 2033 to be at $682 billion annually, right? And for perspective, I'm led to believe that from around 2015, it was doing around 100 billion a year. So the way I kind of describe it, it's almost like if you bought Bitcoin in like 2018, 2020, there was enough proof of concept that a lot of people were already actually making a lot of money. But in reality, you're still very early. The rocket still hasn't quite taken off yet. So what is high ticket sales essentially made up of, right? So you've got your fitness coaches, your business mentors, trading experts, real estate guys, right? So essentially, in saying this, anyone that you can think of that has a personal brand and they have a skill set, they're monetizing their knowledge essentially, whether that's a fitness coach, a business mentor, whether it's your typical make money online models, whether it's remote sales, trading, Amazon FBA, drop shipping, all these models, all the way down to dating advice, again, business coaching related. Pretty much anything. There's no right way. You will naturally just kind of find your lane of what your niche is. So again, anyone that has a personal brand online, they are all monetizing their skill set in one way or another. So essentially, they've all got the same problem. They have tons of people interested, but as you can imagine, they do not have the time, the bandwidth, or maybe even the skill set to actually sell it to these people that already want their product or service. So this is essentially where a high ticket closer becomes their sales reps, and you earn anywhere between 10 and 15% commission for taking these sales calls. So if you close 2 or 3 deals per week, that's how you're soon going to get to your 5 to 10K a month, and then look to scale from that point going forward. And really, you don't need any experience, connections, or startup capital. You just need to learn how to actually have conversations and help people make decisions that they already want to make, essentially. So moving over now to actually what it is. So what is high ticket sales? So from this point, right, you're not cold calling random people. You know, these are warm inbound leads. So if you can imagine you're coming from a corporate sales background, you're always trying to find that warm list. You're probably used to cold calling the people, them hanging up on you, them telling you they're not interested, right? But the reality is the only people that you have conversations with are people that already have a level of interest already. For example, you're watching this video right now because you are somewhat interested already, right? So you're only speaking to people that essentially want your help. So, you know, it's a good place to be. And again, if you come from a sales background, you might think that's too good to be true. But hey, come over here and see what it's like. So Your job when you're on these calls really is to help someone that already has a level of interest, but maybe they're a bit scared, they're a bit confused, maybe they don't fully understand the business model, right? And they essentially need someone to walk them through this process and help them to make that decision that ultimately has the ability to change the trajectory of their life. So think about it, right? Again, they wouldn't be on a sales call if they weren't already interested. And your job is to be that bridge to help them get from where they are now to where they actually essentially want to go. So just to sort of bring this to life a little bit, again, I've already mentioned that it can pretty much be anything. Anyone that has a personal brand, they're monetizing their skill sets, right? So for example, if we run with Cristiano Ronaldo, right? Everyone knows who Ronaldo is. He's the guy that has millions of eyeballs on him, millions of followers, right? Now, if you imagine if Ronaldo was to bring out a coaching or a mentorship and it was how to get better at football or how to become a professional at football, right? Now, he would have people that build it out for him, deal with the front end, the back end, the ads, and all things like that, right? But at this point in time now, he has a coaching program and he is an online business owner. And something that's important to say, again, just to bring it to life a little bit, just when you think of like the normal 9 to 5 sales world, right? Whether you want to buy a Mercedes and you go down to the Mercedes garage, you're speaking to a car salesman, right? If you want to buy a house, you speak to a real estate agent, which is a salesperson, right? And I think you watching this video, you could agree, if Mercedes didn't have car salespeople, their business wouldn't exist. Same as, in the real estate business, if they didn't have estate agents, they wouldn't exist. So in saying this, where this transfers over into the online world is you're plugging into something that already exists. These online business owners need sales reps. Again, just as if Mercedes need a car salesman, whether I take that, you take that, someone needs to fill that seat. And again, I'd say that's probably the biggest difference between your other traditional online business models, right? Whereas trading, you're kind of scaling a business from the ground up, drop shipping, scaling the business from ground up, and again, anything along these lines. Whereas again, want to put an emphasis on, in high ticket sales, you are plugging into a business that already exists. So that's really important to know. Now, next, so there's 2 different paths that you can take essentially within high ticket closing. So there is a setter, an appointment setter, a closer, and then just sort of a little bit later down the line, sales management, right? But just sticking on setting and closing at this point in time, right? So how a setter works essentially, there's 2 types of appointment setters. There's a DM setter and there's a phone setter, right? For example, how a DM setter would operate. We use the analogy of Cristiano Ronaldo. If you were the DM setter of Ronaldo, you sit on his Instagram account. It's not Liam driving traffic to Ronaldo. You're on his Instagram account. And your job is simple, right? You are noticing when people are liking, commenting, following, engaging, or maybe people are reaching even directly out to Ronaldo because they want to be coached by him, right? And your job is simple. You want to qualify and disqualify these people. You would do this by asking questions such as, why do you want to get better at football? Can't you get better at football on your own? Do you even have the financials to actually invest in yourself to get better in football? So on and so forth. And if that DM setter thinks that person would be a good fit to have a call with a closer, they book in that appointment and that's their job done. How a phone setter works, it's identical, but over the phone, right? And again, warm inbound leads only. You've probably seen tons of videos online before where it will be a particular creator talking about what they do and they'll say, if you want to be coached by me or if you want to learn more, there'll be a link in the description, right? And when people click that link, they fill out an application form. Again, why do you want to get better at football? Can't you get better at football on your own? How much do you have to invest to even get better at football? So on and so forth, right? Then the phone setter is just calling up these people that is already expecting a call, qualify them, disqualify them, book that call in with the closer, and that's their job done, right? So again, just a bit of an example here. Imagine if you were an appointment setter, right? If you booked in 40 appointments for the closer, let's say there was 12 sales off the back of that, which would be a relatively low close rate as well, to be fair. And the particular service, coaching or mentorship that the prospect decided to come on board with was £3,000. As you can see there at 6% commission, they'd be earning around $2,160 a month just from that small amount of work alone. And you don't just have to work with one online business owner either. You can stack them. You can work with multiple. What most people do is they'll work with one alongside the 9 to 5, again, until you start to replace that income. And then you can go full time into appointment setting. And then you can stack multiple offers. You can work with 2, 3, 4 business owners at any one time if you want to. Now, where it moves more into the closing element, right? The closer path. So you are taking the calls that the appointment setter booked for you. Again, so at this point, they've seen an online business owner. They've sort of registered their interest. The appointment setter has then reached out to them, qualified them, and now they've ended up in your calendar. So now you're only speaking again to the most warm, the most qualified people that pretty much already want to buy what you have to sell, in all honesty, right? So you take those sales calls, a typical commission as a closer, you're looking at sort of 10 to 15%, right? Close the deals, collect the payment. So using the same example as the appointment setter, if you had those 12 closes at 3,000 each, there's your sort of 4.3K a month, right there alone. And again, just to bring this all to life a little bit, I used to be a closer for a property investment mentorship in the UK, and it was pretty expensive if someone wanted to join, to be fair. It was either £9,000 or £12,500. So I would take a 45 minute to an hour sales call. Again, if someone that already had a level of interest, every time I closed that, I made 10% commission. So within that 45 minutes to an hour, I would have made between £900 and £1,250 commission from the appointment that the appointment setter booked in for me from someone that already had a level of interest anyway. And again, if you just see here, top closers sort of making anywhere from 10K, 20K, 30K a month or more, really. The number is not too important. What is important is you can scale that income and it's not capped. Ultimately, the more money you make will be the better you are at the skill, and, you know, dependent on the particular vehicle that you're in as well. So some people like to start as an appointment setter, but it's not a must. You don't have to. To be honest with me, I just jump straight into closing. Typically, you're probably going to be an appointment setter for maybe 3 to 6 months, and then you're going to look to become a closer anyway. So for me, I just thought I was in sales already. I'll just jump straight into a closer, and I feel like that was the best decision that I could have made there. So bringing it into how would you actually sort of take these sales calls, right? So here's my 6-step closing framework that every successful call follows. So when we're actually on these sales calls, right, the first step that you're actually looking to do really is build that rapport and discovery. So actually build the connection up with the person that you're talking to and ask questions, right? Like, you know, why did you actually want to book in this call, and what are you actually looking to achieve out of X, right? Whatever the coaching or service is. And what you really want to think of doing is, yes, we like to take them through checkpoints, but you're not trying to force an agenda. You're not trying to follow a script. You genuinely have to come from the position of that you're trying to help this person and not necessarily sell them, because that's going to be one of the biggest mistakes that you're actually going to do there. So after you've done the discovery part, the next thing that you're going to move on to, right, is actually digging into their pain a little bit, right? Because ultimately, when you're selling someone, you're selling them an outcome to get them out of the situation that they're in, rather than the shiny object that it is. For example, right, if someone wanted to get into trading, you're not necessarily selling them because they want to get good at trading. You're actually selling them that maybe this guy's a dad and he's on the road all the time and he misses his son's birthdays and can't take him to football. You're actually selling him on being able to be more present in his son's life, rather than the shiny object of the cool thing being able to trade, for example, right? So you really actually just have to dig into their frustrations and their current situation, right? Also, what's been the main reason that they haven't moved forward as well? Really be able to address these roadblocks and hurdles that they've had in the past. And this is really going to help you actually pre-handle those objections as well. Next, we really want to go into what's actually been keeping them stuck in that situation, right? Is there any kind of limiting beliefs that we have to help them overcome on this call and help them to reset their mindset right now? Next, again, how long have they actually wanted to do something like this? You really want to actually gauge that timeline of how long it's been. You know, why haven't they done something sooner? And most importantly, once you've got all of this information across here, you really need to make them feel the cost of inaction. So again, what happens if another 6 to 12 months go by and you miss another son's birthday, or you miss out on this holiday with your friends, or your friends have gone traveling and you can't go? All these things, again, what was their specific why? You really need them to sit in that identity of they didn't take the bet on themselves, and how would they feel knowing that they didn't even try? So the next step 3, right? What we're looking for here is really actually sort of paint the picture of their ideal life, right? So again, you can just say to them, if you were thinking sort of 6 to 12 months down the line, if you could wave a magic wand, what does life look like for you specifically, right? And what would you be doing with all this free time? Again, get them to really just actually sit in that moment of they've made it, they've done exactly what they wanted to do, right? And again, really just get them to articulate their desired outcome as well. So step 4, solution presentation, right? So show exactly how the program that you're working with ultimately bridges the gap from where they are to where they want to be, right? And again, use specific examples and case studies really just to demonstrate the clear path to their goals. Step 5, social proof and risk removal. So provide credibility, right, with real results and statistics, right? You only want to be working with a business that do genuinely deliver the results that they say they get for the people that come on board, right? So again, show them testimonials. This is someone that come from a similar background to you. This is what their life looked like. And now this is what they're able to do as a result of actually making this commitment to themselves, right? And just make them really feel like it's the best decision. They have to make this decision, or they're just going to go back to the life that they didn't want. And again, if you work with an online business that has any sense of guarantees, whether it's guarantees on results, money back, whatever it is, that can always help as well. Decision and close, right? So here we're looking to challenge their current decision-making patterns, right? You need to create urgency around change. If they keep thinking the same way, ultimately they'll get the same results. And then immediately process the payment whilst the momentum is high as well. So again, create that urgency. Get them to sit in that sort of mindset of, if they don't make the right decision today, the reality is they are going to still be in their current vehicle, still in the same situation. Again, still missing their kids' birthdays or missing out on that holiday with their friends, right? Because ultimately, we are exactly where we are based on the decisions that we've made. So if we want different outcomes, we need to start making different decisions. And you need to help them to actually realize that in the moment as well. Now, the next part here. So now that you understand what remote sales is, what you're actually doing on these calls, now this is how you're actually really going to be able to build or outreach and land your first role. So first of all, something that's going to be very, very powerful, right, is actually building a custom Loom video. Only 2 to 3 minutes, but this is really, it can be specific to the business owner, and it's really just an opportunity to showcase your communication, sort of your communication skills and enthusiasm. Mention any relevant background sort of experience you have. Again, if you come from a corporate sales background, you can massively leverage that, which is going to help you a lot. And look, you want to be sending this to 50 to 100 creators, right? If not more. And the key here is volume and persistence, right? Some students send 200 plus messages before getting hired, right? It really is a numbers game. You just got to keep showing up every single day. And then again, the success is inevitable. So a couple of ways then, and places and where and how we can outreach, right? So first of all, there's the YouTube method, right? Search, for example, how to start niche in 2026. For example, how to start trading, how to start investing in property, for example, right? Find creators with 2,000 to 50,000 subscribers. Look for maybe coaching services in their bio, somewhere where you could potentially book in a call, because again, you know that they have a coaching or a mentorship there. And again, just make sure that they are actively posting and getting engagement as well. Because again, this is all a good sign that the traffic is going to be flowing through to you if you are that closer on that opportunity. Next is the WOP or school method, right? So a couple ways you can do this. You can join some paid communities, right? Where sort of business owners actively post job opportunities as well. So some of the heavy lifting can be done for you. You can also look for communities in here as well, right? If you go on School or WOP and you search in, for example, again, trading or fitness coach, tons of online businesses and coaching and mentorships are going to appear, right? And you can actually message the business owners directly, which is a huge plus as well, because sometimes when you outreach on Instagram, you're going to be speaking to an appointment setter that is sat on the account, as you can kind of gauge from the analogy earlier. So this really allows you to essentially just go straight into the back door and speak directly to the business owner themselves, right? Now, the next avenue is LinkedIn Sales Navigator, right? So target sort of these online business owners, sort of companies with 100 to 50 employees, companies actively hiring, and focus. You can focus on SaaS as well. That tends to work really well on LinkedIn, right? Use filters to find qualified prospects, send personalized messages. Again, use Loom videos, it's my go-to, and really just to offer to audit their sales process, right? Lastly, another way, a bit of an untapped market here, is Facebook Ad Library, right? When you use Facebook Ad Library, you can search for online business owners. Again, if you was to put in trading or fitness coaching, you're going to see all of the people that are running ads for that niche specifically. And for me, it's a green flag, because you can clearly see that the business owner is investing into the business, which means they are obviously getting leads into the business, which means ultimately there's money to be made, right? So again, find a company that's running ads, message the founder, position yourself as a solution, and follow up. And just doing that alone is going to put you in a very, very strong position to actually land your first role. So next, the skills that actually matter, right? And this is where the difference between high ticket sales and traditional sales is a little bit different, right? They're very similar as well. It's almost like if you're playing rugby, they went to go play American football. Very similar playing fields, but just some slight differences there. So first of all, you need tonality mastery, right? Really just control the excitement, seriousness and empathy. Match their energy and pace tone. That ultimately delivers 80% of your message. Next, discovery over pitching. You want to spend 70% of the call asking and listening, right? The more they talk, the more they sell themselves. Ask why to dig deeper and stay genuinely curious as well. And something that I'll put a lot of emphasis on as well is you just want to stay in this part for as long as possible. Don't feel like you've got to move on too soon, because ultimately when you're going through your checkpoints on the call, if you don't get the relevant information that you need as it goes through the process, you're ultimately in less control whether it closes or not at the end of the call. Objection prevention as well, right? Address concerns before they become roadblocks. Rather than letting them get to the end of at the end of the call, just ask them, is there any reason why you feel like you wouldn't make this commitment to yourself today? Then you can ultimately just deal with that objection there and then, rather than them bringing it up at the back end of the call and then actually having to, or even worse, they come up with their own sort of answers off the back of the call as well. So any opportunity you get to pre-handle that objection, just get it done. Again, a big one is I need to speak to the partner or wife or husband or whatever it is objection. At the start of the call, just say, are you the sole decision maker? Do you need to speak to anyone else before making a decision? So ultimately what that means for you is if they say, no, it's my choice, they can't use that objection on you at the back end of the call, and it's just a smoke screen for something else. Whereas if they say, yes, I'll be making the decision with someone else, and then say, absolutely fine, let's just reschedule the call, right? Then you've got both decision makers on the call, and you can actually get a decision on the call when the motivation is the highest. Lastly, future pacing. This is a massive one, right? It really just helps them to visualize what their life would look like when they've got results, right? If you was to say to them, imagine 6 months down the line now, you're in Thailand, you're on a beach, coconut in hand, pina colada, or whatever it is, you've told your boss, never have to work with you ever again. Your friends and family don't have to worry about maybe the stresses they had in place in the past. You can help them financially. Like if you imagine yourself in that moment, what does that mean to you? And they really have to actually, or I wouldn't say have to, like it's a bad thing. They get to live that actual identity for a couple of seconds of what life would be like if they make that commitment to themselves. Next, how to actually scale this business, right? Once you're sort of making these consistent commissions, here's how you actually scale. So first of all, level 1, right? What you're going to look into, you want to absolutely track everything. How many book calls do you get in a week? Show up rate, by time slot, close rates, your sort of average, by your average deal size. Use this data to ultimately optimize your schedule and performance as well. You want to track everything that you do, and this is really how you're going to go to the next level and the next and the next. Now, level 2, stack opportunities as well. As I briefly mentioned earlier, you're probably going to work with one business until you're out of your 9-to-5 job. Then after that, you can work for as many as you want. Almost imagine yourself being like a freelance sales rep. You can work with one business, you can work with 4 if you want to. It's totally up to you, right? And really this just allows you to that actual diversity sort of in your income streams for even more stability, right? You can go across different niches, different price points. You never have to just depend on one source there. Level 3, actually build your reputation, right? Document on social media consistently. The high ticket space is sort of small, and reputation ultimately travels fast, right? Post your wins, your work ethic, your learning journey. And ultimately, I've seen now time and time again, I get messages all day, every day of online business owners reaching directly out to me. I don't even have to reach out to them anymore, right? When people know who you are and what you do, you'll be pleasantly surprised about the amount of attention you actually get from these online business owners. Now, level 4, network and grow, right? Connect with other top performers. The best opportunities in reality come through real relationships. That's where I've had my best opportunities in the past. And eventually you can go on to start your own placement system. You can train other closers and take a percentage, or start your own coaching company, right? The sort of opportunity is endless, really. Now, down here, and this is exactly how I went from a 6-figure corporate trap, as I like to call it, to true remote freedom. Next, success killing mistakes, right? I've seen hundreds try this and ultimately fail, right? Here are the mistakes that kill 90% of people when they're trying to do high ticket closing. So sounding scripted. First of all, people detect when you're reading. It kills trust and makes you sound like every other salesperson. Learn frameworks, not scripts, not word for word scripts, just practice until it sounds natural. Again, I'm not saying I was perfect out the gate. You might reference some scripts at the start, but the sooner you can get rid of them, the better. Second, taking bad offers. Working with creators sort of lacking proof or engagement is a dead end, right? You need to vet these offers thoroughly. I'd say probably the biggest mistake that I made in my high ticket closing career is spending too much time on a vehicle that just isn't going anywhere. You get mentored, you spend that money on getting the skill sets and knowledge that you need, you start going through the process, it's all starting to click, you start going for your first interviews and you land that first role. And for me, I ended up just wasting far too much time on these offers when I should have left them a lot sooner. So instead now, what you can actually do so you don't have to waste months of progression is vet these offers. And what I actually mean by that is when you're having these interviews with them, ask them what was their cash collected last month and what are they pacing this month. So for example, if they say you're going to earn 8 grand a month and as a closer you're earning 10% commission, they would have needed to have done at least 80,000 cash collected last month. And if they are doing those numbers, then they'll have no issue putting their money where their mouth is and actually showing you that, whether it's through different Slack channels, Discord, spreadsheets, whatever it is. And that's going to save you tons and tons of time. Here, not practicing enough, right? You really need to be turning up, showing up daily, just looking to get 1% better every single day. Doing daily mock calls with other closers, and ultimately most quit after a week, right? I think high ticket sales, 100% of people can be successful in, but only a handful will actually show up every single day, right? And for example, the guys that I coach personally, I will actually review their calls for them, their mock calls and their real sales calls. So yes, I can tell them what they're doing well. They can double down and they actually have that feedback loop and think, okay, this is what I'm doing well. But even more importantly than that, I can diagnose exactly what's going wrong and why a deal didn't close, for example, right? And again, give them that feedback, make them 1% better every single day. And the goal is eventually where they just don't need me anymore and they're completely self-sufficient. Fourth and last point, giving up too early, right? Again, kind of similar to the last point, but most quit far too early, right before breakthrough, right? My first few months were not life-changing, but it was proof that this actually worked, right? And ultimately, success compounds. If you show up and get better every single day, it's impossible to fail. Again, because it's a skill-based thing. If you look at it like anything in your life, right? Again, whether once upon a time you didn't know how to drive a car, you got in the car with a driving instructor, worked on it each and every day, and eventually now you can drive your car with probably, I won't say your eyes closed, but one hand or whatever you want to do. And it's exactly the same thing. If you show up every day, it's impossible to fail. Next. So income progression and timelines, right? So here's some realistic progression when you follow the system. It can come a lot quicker, but I think a lot of people online talk about these numbers super fast, which can happen, but they're not going to happen for everyone. So I'd rather mention some realistic timelines here. So what you can expect from sort of your first month or so, right? This is your proof of concept. You're learning the ropes. Maybe you're earning $1,800 a month, which is just a nice sort of bump at the start whilst you're realistically still learning, right? Month 2. We're sort of looking to, we're getting more comfortable. You're improving your close rate and maybe we're at around 2.4K a month there. When we get into month 3, this is where your performance is a lot more consistent. Maybe you're running that 4.2K a month. Again, more consistently. You have a lot of comfortability. Maybe at this point you're going, okay, probably makes sense for me to leave my 9-to-5 job now. Then when we get in more towards month 6, this is where maybe you're having multiple offers. You're working with more than one business owner. And again, your skills are just very refined at this point. This way you're pushing more to the 7.5K a month. By month 9, again, just very strong reputation and you're just getting better and better opportunities. That's something that I've really noticed in the high ticket sales world. Like most things, the hardest bits are at the start. Then it starts to snowball. Opportunities get easier to find, / they come to you. You get better, more opportunities just end up coming across your plate there as well. And that's where we're looking more at that 10.2K a month mark. And then for sort of 12 months and beyond, you've pretty much mastered the system, right? And maybe at this point in time, you're thinking about even starting your own closer coaching company, right? To essentially allow other people that were once where you were to now live the life that they want to live as well. I'll be able to teach people how to do that as well. And at that point, I mean, you're looking at 15K plus, right? So really here, this is a skill-based business. The better you get, the more money that you'll make. And there is no ceiling except from the one that you put in yourself. So that's essentially a higher level overview, right? Of what even is this opportunity? What is high ticket sales? How can you actually do it? How can you find your first opportunity? And ultimately some very predictable timelines that you can actually expect. 18 months ago, I was literally making no money online. I was very unfulfilled. I had no path forward to remote and financial freedom. The very first day that I knew about this space, I found a system and I committed to it. And since then, I now live my dream life. I can go anywhere in the world. I can do what I want, whenever I want, and I'm able to support the people that I love and continue to work on myself and grow. All because of high ticket sales. So I'm a firm believer in it. And if you're someone that's been thinking about doing something like this for a long time now, and you've been thinking about actually making that pivot into high ticket closing, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend that you do it because the longer that you wait, there's actually someone else out there that's taking your spot. There's someone else out there that's been thinking just as long as you, but they're actually making that change right now. So I gave you the roadmap. I explained everything to you. So go out, start networking, start reaching out to creators, get on your first offer, crush it, and sharpen your skills every single day. Just get after it. 100% of people watching this can be successful in high ticket sales, but only a handful will take that bet on themselves. And you are in full control whether your next 6 months look like your last, or if your next 6 months look like the life that you've always dreamed of. So stop waiting, stop procrastinating. The sooner you do, the sooner your life is going to change, and you're going to actually be living the life that you actually want, doing the things that you actually want, not having to be on that car dealership floor or knocking doors or cold calling or being trapped in those 4 corporate office walls. But yeah, if you actually want help with this, if you actually want to make this process more efficient, if you don't want to do any of the guesswork, if you want complete time, location, and financial freedom as soon as possible, I can help you with that. I actually have a program to where I get you from A, which is unhappy, unfulfilled, and no freedom, to Z, which is complete freedom in every single area of your life, by taking you from A to B, B to C, C to D, so on and so forth, hand holding you through the entire process of just what works in the fastest way possible. I can get you to where you need to be, so you can shoot me a message below here in the comments. You can also DM me on Instagram, the Liam Rowan, or I'll also just have a link in the description and we can go from there.